Let's talk.
Giles Brown.
The more observant amongst you may have noticed there's a bit of football coming our way in the next couple of weeks, months, and whatever. So it is the perfect time. If all these football tomes with stats and matches and the good and the glorious and it all seems far too academic, then my next guest should be able to put this down into a point to things that even Luddites like myself can even understand. The book is called The Unbelievable Football. It is part, I believe, from the magnum opus, the rather large octopus that is the World of Football series. It is by the prolific Matt Oldfield, star striker, the Pele in the pantheon of putting pen to paper and writing all about football. Matt, good morning to you, sir.
Good morning. What an introduction. I don't think I can live up to anything involving Pele. Feels a bit much for me, but yeah, well, thank you.
I just like to give you the big build. It's a Monday morning, for goodness sake. You're probably sick of the sight of football by now, or whatever. What's your background, Matt? Why are you so eminently qualified to bring us the world of football?
I don't know about eminently qualified, but I've been doing it for quite a while now. I guess I started off with two things, I guess, like a sort of some kind of a background in writing, but also this love of football. And it kind of came from there, really. But I've been writing since about 2015, not this particular series, but I also write a series called Ultimate Football Heroes, which is focusing on sort of individual players, and the Messis and Ronaldos of this world. And so that's kind of where I started writing lots of those. And the more I wrote those, the more I began to think about, this is great, but what about all those amazing true football stories that aren't so famous, that don't have all these, that people haven't heard a million times? And that's where this series came from, is The Unbelievable Football is all about those kind of weird and wonderful stories rather than the super famous stuff.
Here's the thing, because I mean, apparently this book is aimed at a certain age bracket, isn't it? It's supposed to be six to 93 or something, or 6 to 6. It's supposed to be for quote unquote a younger audience, allegedly.
Exactly.
Okay. Now, but one of the things is, Matt, because and here's something that the general public don't know, and they will absolutely what's it their pants on this. In a previous life, I was a sub editor for a publisher back in London. You probably. But one of the things that I had to do as sub-editor is I had to sub a book called Amazing Pharaohs, which was a history book for kids, and also the 1998 Teletubbies album. All right, not the record, but the book itself. And that, ladies and gentlemen, I worked for Reader's Digest Group and Moneywise and done some subbing on the Daily Mirror, etc. I found that more challenging to put in perspective and get my head around and write and sub than anything that I ever did for Moneywise or Draper's Record. So how difficult is it to write for allegedly a younger audience?
It is. I mean, I guess to be honest, for me, it's the only thing I've always written for a younger audience. So this is kind of what I know. But I suppose it's about taking those stories and sort of finding the bits that kids are really going to enjoy the most, telling it in an engaging way, making it fun, asking questions, making it relatable and accessible for these kids, and making sure that they're also kind of, I think with these stories especially, it's about kind of learning some history, some geography along the way as well, but in a fun way.
Okay, so you're letting people know where Cameroon actually is, for example, and that kind of thing. Yeah. I hadn't thought about that way. Yeah, that's a good way. Okay,
so it breaks it all down into the 7 continents. So each continent, not only we talk about kind of the big tournament moments, but it's also about the history of how football began in that particular part of the world. So, which essentially is the spread from Europe into the kind of
Oh, that's yes, and here we go, and it's Monday, but I'm going to drop the woke word in here. That must be an interesting one as well, because I'm born in, and I'm ancient. I'm born in 1968, right? So my book of football was a tome which was all about, I don't know. So it's 1978. It's all Kevin Keegan and Trevor Brooking and all that sort of thing. And there is only sort of one football, and women's football doesn't even exist as far as we know, and African nations are a bit of a joke, and nobody mentions the colonial bit that football has to happen. So that must be a challenging one to do. To do now.
Yeah, I mean, I think sort of addressing the colonial times is quite an important part of it, because let's face it, that's how football spread, is through people taking it into these different parts of the world and the game developing in different ways. So yeah, trying to get that across, but in a way that is both understandable for kids, but is also kind of said in the right way for modern times.
That's what I mean about writing for kids can be more difficult. And obviously, you may or may not know, but football in Spain is introduced by Brits who are working in, believe it or not, the mines in Warwick. So this whole thing. So so you've got the whole world of football to choose from, Matt. And how many pages is this one? It's going to be. He said, flicking to the back.
Yeah, 262 to be exact.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
So, how do you? You've got the whole world of football, the whole history of football. Your starter for 10. How do you boil all that down then?
Well, I think so. What we were trying to do is have that mix of kind of the origins, the history, but then like a couple of like bigger stories that involve slightly more famous names, and then some weird and wonderful stuff as well. And that was kind of each of the 7 continents. We wanted to have that kind of format. So obviously, Antarctica, a lot easier to just pick out 3 stories, right? Europe and South America, a lot harder. So with Europe, we decided, right, okay, we should have a Ronaldo story in there. So we talked about kind of Ronaldo's adventures with Portugal and how, they lost to Greece in 2004, but ended up winning it in 2016. That kind of story arc is quite nice.
Yeah, the journey.
Exactly. And we did the same with Messi in South America. But we wanted to also, and in Africa, there's a story about Salah and Mane playing against each other in the AFCON final and stuff. We wanted to have a few of the big hitters in there that kids would recognise. But then this series is very much, for me, is like, the opposite of some of the other stuff I do where it's all about the big names. This is more about finding those slightly left field stories that aren't so well known, especially for kids, that, some of the older stories that just don't get told so much.
Because here's the thing, amongst many other things, is the fact that, you've got to have the, if you like, the gateway, so the Ronaldos and the Messis, because a lot of the kids, in a way that my generation, we played Sabutio or striker, flick to kick. We didn't have, FIFA or Pro or whatever it is. So they will know all these names because they play as them every day of the week, kind of thing. And so they instantly recognize in a way that would have been, we couldn't would have believed that back in even the 80s, So increasing that knowledge of football, because they may know this, they may know the figure of Ronaldo, but they won't know his struggles, etc., and the perfect art. And Messi, 110%, because he's too small, he has to go huge distances away from his family, etc., etc. So must be good to put flesh on the bone, but also, Antarctica. Last time I looked. Not a lot of away matches, and obviously, are we talking footballing penguins here? What are we looking at?
No, I wish. There is a picture of a footballing penguin actually within the book, but no. David Beckham once played a football match in Antarctica, so he did for UNICEF. He did this charity event where he went and played football in all 7 continents, and so there was a match he played on a glacier, which goes in the book, obviously.
Okay, fine, yeah.
Tick the box. There are also like a few, because a lot of countries have bases there. Like there's a Chilean camp. There's been kind of French and so at different points in history they've held tournaments against each other, and so they do have. I think one of the bases quite early on built an indoor football pitch, which obviously is fairly important. The indoor element of that, and so that meant that they could hold these tournaments. So like football. I think it's one of the things about the book, and I guess the series as a whole, is just how like powerful and ever-present football is around the world. Like, you even in the sort of far fields of Antarctica, you still got people who love football and want to play it.
Well,
bringing people together.
It's the universal game. No matter wherever you go, somebody will have a kick around and that sort of thing. I mean, if I was to stand on my desk, not only would you get a view of my rather shapely ankles, but also you could see Gibraltar from where we are. Right now, Gib used to have a football ground as soon as you came in, the Victoria Ground. Now they've moved to Europa Point, and obviously not an awful lot of land area. But my goodness, the Gibraltarian fans are sort of rabid in their support. So it is. Yeah. I mean, there are some unusual places. Isn't there a game play in a volcanic crater? Presumably that's sort of not active.
No. So yeah, there's one of the other sections in this book is about finding those kind of weird and wonderful places to play. So there's in Central America, there's a kind of a dormant volcano. Don't worry, it is safe. But yeah, this kind of community have access to this incredible pitch. But to get there, you have to climb this huge mountain. But every weekend, these people do it because this is their local pitch that they love. And in amongst all this forest, there's just this cutaway strip that is a football pitch, and that is where they spend their weekends, which is just amazing. I love those kind of stories.
Yeah, and again, because you're doing it about it's a global game. Presumably, we're looking at. I mean, okay, Africa. Obviously, you mentioned Mo Salah. Again. Africa, Tangier is 14 kilometres away from where I'm sitting at the moment. The way that Morocco, Tunisia, Egypt, all the the Maghrebis, they're absolutely insane about their football, and and now it's coming to fruition. We're seeing them appearing in these big tournaments, and with the African Cup of Nations, which has really helped. So really, I mean, it must be quite good fun because there are some characters in the African game, aren't they? To put it mildly.
Oh yeah. I think making it such a global book allows for a lot of interesting, fun stuff. And I just think it's, the way that football works now for young people, like the Premier League is obviously full of players from lots of different countries, so they'll have some awareness of these countries, but they're not going to know about football in those places. They're going to know about Mo Salah, but they're going to have no idea about what football's like in Egypt.
Yeah.
And so it's really nice to be able to kind of explore those parts of the football world that kids just wouldn't know so much about and have a bit of fun with it as well.
What about, not about age. I don't mean, because there's been enough coverage about Iran and, trying to get into any nation that thinks that Tijuana is a safe place to hang out. I know. But Asian, Thailand, Korea. Have we looked at Japan? That's a great unknown. I'm a 58-year-old man and I don't know much about football over there. So, do you look at that bit? Yeah.
Yeah. So Japan are the only team outside of Europe and North and South America to ever win a World Cup. Which was the Japanese women's team won it in 2015.
Okay.
So that's so far the only team. So they're, especially in the women's game, like Japan and China were kind of at the forefront of everything. The first ever Women's World Cup took place in China. So the women's game has always been quite central to that. And I think as time goes on, the men's game has got bigger and bigger. You've got South Korea, you've got Japan doing, they qualify for every World Cup. They're doing better and better. There's a story in this book about South Korea and the 2002 World Cup where they managed to beat Italy and Spain and, sort of shocked the world a bit, which was there because it was in 2002 was Japan and South Korea hosting the tournament. And this was such a big moment for Asian football as a whole, really, to really kind of show that they could kick it with the European big boys. But yeah. So the Asian game is quite an interesting one. And again, one that kids especially kids of today are just not really going to know so much about.
And the women's game. Again, if we'd written this book 20 years ago, it would have been, oh yes, and women also play football. But my goodness, I'm in Spain, and obviously the Clásico now between Barcelona and Real Madrid women's team. Spain, huge, huge, winning, World Cup winner, and all that kicked off after that away from the field. But and again, the Lionesses have to, and they've shown perhaps it is the beautiful game, and you could get cynical about the way that certain things in the male game have gone, but the women's game is a breath of fresh air, and you see the crowds and you see the families in a way that, you know, Premier League and male football can only dream of, can't they?
Yeah, I think it's a combination of a nicer atmosphere, but it's just so much more accessible as well. Like, you know, unfortunately now modern football in the UK, for example, you know, kids can't really afford, you know, a lot of people are priced out of Premier League in particular. So, you know, being able to, the women's game is just is a really nice thing to have. You know, whether it becomes a bit more like the Premier League, the men's Premier League over time, I don't know. But for now, it certainly feels like a slightly different and nicer environment.
So when it comes to doing these stories, you know, it can't be just all about the football. There has to, because you're aiming it at kids and you want to get the values across. Because whatever, you know, kids will, unfortunately, mirror what they see. I mean, the number of people you see rolling around after Neymar's been playing, for example, because they see, you know, and I mean, even a bad player like me would do a Kevin Keegan celebration or something when he occasionally fluked a goal. So picking the stories that have moral. I'm not saying, you know, but have you know, teach some values. So what have been, just because we've only got 11 minutes or so left. So I mean, what are the ones that sort of is it keeping going? Is it fairness? Is it sportsmanship? Is it being a team player rather than being a superstar?
All of those things, really. I mean, I think a lot of the ones, so, you know, you think about the Messi and Ronaldo stories, those ones are about kind of resilience and bouncing back when things don't go well. And there's a lot of lessons that I think kids can learn from that kind of stuff. And just seeing their heroes as, you know, real people who go through setbacks and sort of, you know, manage to overcome them is a really good lesson, I think, for young people. So we tell a lot of stories of that. Team as well, yeah, absolutely. We try and, some of the stories are more focused on individual journeys, but some of them are more about teams. Not this book, but in one of the other books in the series, we did the Liverpool, the Miracle of Istanbul, you know, that whole idea of those incredible comebacks where it is all about a group of people coming together and saying, this is not going well, but we're not just going to give up. We're going to find a way. So we love talking about those stories as well.
And when we talk about unbelievable moments of the global game, is it things like, are we talking national game? Are we talking internationals here? Are we talking, you know, the 2 minutes of madness at 99 in Barcelona with you know, the United match? What are we looking at unforgettable moments? Or are we talking about...
With the World of Football one, that is much more focused on the international game. So we talk a little bit about the club game, and we pick out some of the biggest clubs from around the world as well. But most of it, I'd say, is focused around the national teams and the big tournaments. So it's, yes, the World Cups, but also the kind of continental tournaments. So whether that's the Euros, the AFCON, the Asian Cup, whatever it is, you know, it's much more that for that book, but then other books in the series have much more of a club base to them. So yeah, the Liverpool stories, the United 99, all of that. Those have to get covered somewhere. The Aguero moment, you know, all of that stuff.
Yeah, you know. The complete madness. Do you have Denmark in there? 92 Europe each? Possibly not, because before your time, because they were on holiday and then Yugoslavia kicked off, and then they went and won. They won the bleeding thing. France 90. But how about France in the World Cup? Les Bleus. Is that? I'm giving you a list for the next one, but that was.
Yeah, I know. There's this list of stories that kind of. Every time I write one of these books, I create this long list of stories which gets whistled down to, you know, most of these books have about 30 stories in, and then whatever gets left behind gets moved on to the next book, and then there are a few stories that just drop off. 98, we've done a few bits and pieces. I don't think I've ever written a full-on, like I've done a story about Zidane, which goes all the way from 98 through to the headbutt. So that was which covers quite a lot of 98. There's a few other I actually, in this one, there's a little story about that whole routine they had at 98 where Laurent Blanc, the captain, would kiss the head of the bald head of Barthez. So there's a little story about that. Just that's one of the kind of weird and wonderful ones, just because it's such a Yeah, for me, growing up, like '98 World Cup was, it was quite an iconic thing.
You were too young, weren't you? Let's face it, you were probably about 8. I'm now feeling ridiculously old. So, what of the 21st century then? Should we say? What are the moments that what are the moments that you have made it into this book and A, leaves you, it was great fun to sort of write and research, and B, it would be good fun to read. What are the ones that that leap out of the page like, I don't know, like a what's it header? I was going to say anything that I say you'll be too young for. I mean, apart from
no, I'm not. Yeah, I'll get the references. Don't you worry. I'm half Welsh, so one of the stories that I was really keen to write and finally got to write in this one was the story of Euro 2016 and the whole that journey to which was for me was like the biggest. As a football fan, was like the biggest moment. That whole story of Gareth Bale and Aaron Ramsey and beating Belgium.
Yeah, the quarter final and the whole thing was just the insanity of that. Yeah, it's one of the things as well. That's one of the things it is because if you follow Formula One like I do or rugby union like I do, you kind of know that New Zealand will beat 9 times out of 10 they are going to trounce a minnow. But the beauty of football is that you get results like Iceland beating England, or Wales that night, or even Scotland against McTominay, that brilliant night earlier on this year where the Hamptons Court and that is the beauty of football because it's the unpredictability of the whole situation. Yeah,
absolutely. I think one of the great things about football is because it's played by so many different countries. And the nature of football as well. It's just a game that I think is perhaps a little bit more unpredictable. You've got this world where, especially in international football, I think anyone over 90 minutes could beat another team. It's anything is possible, and I do think that's one of the many reasons why football is in that position as the most popular sport in the world by a long way. As well as things like how easy a game it is to play. It's also just the drama of not quite knowing what's going to happen next.
So what are you hoping from this book, apart from it to sell well and you get huge royalties and then can, you can hang out in your island with Sepp Blatter or even you can afford a World Cup ticket and bring your own water and you can afford to buy the water at the forthcoming World Cup. What are you hoping that people get? Is it the fun and the fact that it's bringing a bit of, the true values a little bit for a younger readership, Matt?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think it's about sort of inspiring those younger readers, but it's also, I mean, most of what I do, I write children's books about football. That's sort of my job. And a crucial part of that is just about engaging young kids and getting them into reading. Yeah. And so many young kids are football fans. It's the global game. And I think, it's finding ways to make use of that power, that popularity of football. So, writing about the super famous people, but also throwing in some weird and wonderful stuff as well.
I miss the most important thing of the whole situation: getting kids reading, not just doing TikToks, getting them reading. No, because I've got 14-year-old goddaughters. Trust me, and they've got the attention span of a boiled gnat. So to get them into the habit of reading is something they're going to love.
Yeah. Absolutely. That's a crucial part of what I do. So I do a lot of work in schools as well around my books and just engaging, using that. Football is such an amazing tool when it comes to unlocking a love of reading and writing. And I think, if you can tell the right stories, give them characters that they already know, but also new stuff that they don't necessarily know, I think that can have such a powerful impact in terms of getting them reading in the first place. And then that can lead to all kinds of things. The book is called Unbelievable Football. Unbelievable Footballs from the World of Football series. It's even got pictures in it too, which look rather lovely. Yeah. It's by Matt Oldfield, who is speaking today. Listeners, go forth and order it for yourself. But just say you're ordering it for your kids or your grandkids by going to our virtual bookstore. If people want to follow you online, say nice things, where's the best place to find you, Matt? Probably on Instagram. So it's at Matt Oldfield Books. Or online at heroesfootball.com.
Brilliant. What's up for you next, Matt? What's the next book? Is it a dark and chilling gothic tale? I mean, what are you to get rid of some of that niceness? Are you writing something?
I'm in the process of. I've sort of written a lot of books, yearbooks, where we're waiting for the World Cup to happen, so that I can then very quickly add in all the information about the World Cup. So I'm sort of writing everything else. Then I'm going to sort of take a break to watch the whole of the World Cup, and then I'm going to have to very quickly write everything up. So
is it a bit like remember the Choose Your Own Adventure books, and you've got 4 or 5 different endings,
exactly,
so you can just drop it in.
I definitely could do it that way, but instead I think I'm just going to enjoy the World Cup and then frantically write up all these books that I need to put endings to.
Well, listen, Matt, you've actually opened a few doors in my mind which I hadn't even thought about, which is absolutely brilliant. Congratulations on this series. Kind of enjoy the World Cup. And he's praying, saying, please let Messi do something wonderful. It'll be that easy to him to drop it in. The book is called Unbelievable Football. It's by Matt Oldfield. Matt, it's been an absolute pleasure to speak to you today.
Thanks for having me.